Hello, this is J9LP, and well, bit odd having to actually do a recording in a situation like this where I haven't actually really followed up with most of my views on news. I have recorded an absolute ton of them, but they're all completely old news by now, and given the viewer response, like I said, I kind of want to do this as this sort of having a conversation with gaming, but if I'm having the conversation on my own, it's not really a conversation, isn't it? So in that case, I pretty much stopped doing it, and given certain situations in my life, I've kind of stopped recording video games and started more concentrating on actually just playing them. And I have to admit, I've been playing a heck of a lot more on my 3DS and my Wii U than I have on my PC. Not saying that there aren't any good games on PC, because they are. Like I said before my last update, I've been playing a bit of Ori and the Blind Forest, and I found that game pretty great in a lot of ways. A bit frustrating than others though. I've got a few other games I actually want to play. Right, it's just getting the motivation and not just the equipment. I mean, there are some other games I actually wanted to record. I got War for the Overworld recently, but for some reason, after the beta, which I did actually get off of Steam Early Access and had pretty much a blast with that, and that wasn't in its complete form. It didn't have the proper voiceover and everything in the game. It was pretty much half done, but I had a fair bit of fun with that. And then the final release came, the update was loaded. For some reason I couldn't get past the menu screen. The thing just froze horribly and crashed, and it almost seems like I can't play it anymore for some reason. There may be some drivers involved, but I updated the latest video drivers. I got a new mouse, just to say, because I did actually still have problems playing Minecraft on that mouse because there was some issues with click lag, and as you could tell in that video, I was doing double clicks when I didn't actually want it to double click. So I was putting 2 blocks around, I wanted to put 1. And at one point I thought it was a problem with the game, but I then suspected it was actually a problem with the mouse. And I've bought a new mouse now. I've got a Logitech G502 Proteus, I think it's called. Initially I didn't want to get it because it honestly, compared to the G500 that I had before, which was kind of a slick looking mouse, you know, it wasn't too many horrible sharp pointy bits sticking out and all these useless knobs and whatever. If you know about the Mad Catz Rats things that looks like a stealth fighter, it's like, well, that's great, but it kind of seems uncomfortable to use in the mouth, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. I didn't want anything like that, so I thought, well, I'll get another G500, and then obviously I've got that Amazon, and they usually point to you what the latest model of that is, and they showed me the G502. I wasn't going to get it at first because I was actually thinking maybe I should get a Microsoft mouse or from something from another manufacturer. I was between the Razer Death Adder and one of the Corsair mice. I forget what make that was, but it was the one with the whopping great big red sniper button on the side, which I played with a bit and thought, yeah, that's actually going to cause a few problems with usability and all that, because I don't just use it for gaming, I use it for productivity stuff as well. I can appreciate that with the gaming mouse at work, because you have selections of and profiles of DPI, that these mice actually do have that functionality, and also have a superior sensor for superior tracking and stuff like that. And that stuff is kind of helpful for doing productivity stuff as well. The mouse that I have at work also has the DPI selector and a number of other few functions that actually help me with putting stuff together. So I thought, well, I'll get one of those for home too. Plus, obviously, it's going to help me with playing games. So I got the Logitech G502 mouse, and it's alright. The scroll wheel, in some senses, is a massive improvement, because the scroll wheel on the G500 I always felt was a little too loose and not really great for actually clicking, because that's one thing I actually do a lot in my work, for zooming in and out and scrolling, panning stuff around. But the middle scroll wheel with also the third mouse button is a bit gammy for that. So I can appreciate that this one actually has a, it's kind of metal and a little bit more stiff with the scrolling. So that's kind of an improvement, although it feels a little bit too stiff. But I think that's just something I need to get used to. Other than that, I'm actually finding it pretty alright. Although that said, and this is one of the reasons that I put this video up, it seems that this could possibly be my last Logitech mouse, because Logitech reportedly said that they won't actually be doing any more mice in the business because their mice hasn't been selling all that well, or they haven't really been getting that much revenue from it. So it seems that they'll actually be leaving the mouse business. I don't know if it's just general mouse, because they have the MX 500 and the MX range and all that other kind of stuff that has also been fairly good quality, although I have heard some reports that some people think that they don't particularly last that long. They're good mice when they work, but they don't last that long. So that might be driving customers away, just the build quality, initially being okay, but then wearing down fairly quickly. And, I think I did actually have an MX 400 at one point, and it served me well for a couple of years until one of the buttons started going horribly gammy. It seems I had the same problem with the G500, although I got that about 3 years ago. It's kind of lasted me a fair while longer than the MX500 was. I don't necessarily think it's really just a problem inherent with just Logitech mice, because I've had a Logitech mice, or some, obviously based on a Logitech mouse at work, when I got a HP workstation, and that lasted me about, about 6 years, or was it 7? I think I got the Dell about 2011, but I was still rocking with that mouse then, and obviously with work, I'm constantly clicking on stuff, so it lasted me quite a while there. And that was a Logitech made mouse. It had a HP branding on it, but it was definitely a Logitech mouse. I've bought other people Logitech mice, and they're still okay with those, so I don't necessarily think it's a problem that's inherent. I think that certain people just have bad luck with mice, and myself included. Not every item that you get lasts that long, or was it the same build quality. For instance, with hard disks, I've had people tell me that not to get Hitachi or IBM disks. Don't get the Death Star, because some people actually call it the Death Star because it lasted them like 6 months before it ultimately crashed and they lost all of their stuff. But I've always had Hitachi discs, and I've had one even now, and I've got another one since 2006 that's still being used in the computer that I've actually given away to another member of my family, and they're still rocking on that machine. It's lasted that long, and that was since 2006. Same with the first workstation that I made for myself, which I then eventually got into work when I was working freelance before I was made staff there. I've been using that machine since 1999, and the hard disk didn't fall over. It was an IBM Ultra style, so it wasn't really a desk style, so you can't really compare the two. But that lasted me a good while. Conversely, on the other side of things, a lot of people recommended Samsung discs. Samsung discs are absolutely great, and you should put one in our system. And I went by that advice on my first build, and it lasted 6 months and then fell over. That's when I ended up getting the Hitachi, the so-called Death Star, which is the same one that I just mentioned before, that is still rocking today. So, you know, I don't really put too much weight. Either I'm incredibly lucky with hard disks and just incredibly unlucky with mice, or, you know, it's just that sort of thing, things kind of vary in that sense in terms of build quality of electronic goods. It's kind of interesting and kind of sad, of course. I wouldn't say that I'd miss getting another Logitech mice. I say they're really good and a great value for money, but of course there are mice out there that are Microsoft mice. Of course there are Steel Series and stuff like that, which, you know, I would probably get instead. But the fact of the matter is that this was a kind of a logical successor and also a pretty good quality mouse as well, so I see no reason to jump ship in that regard. Like I said, I tried out most of the other mice, and this one was the one that I personally went with because it served my purposes, and I'm actually able to play Minecraft and other games and do other work without dodgy stuff happening. So that's okay. That's actually a good thing. And actually, funnily enough, I was talking about the Logitech mouse I used. That was a HP brand. It turns out, really, I'm looking into this a bit further, that Logitech aren't actually, they're not ceasing production of their mice, as it were. What they're actually talking about is not producing mice for third parties. So that would more likely mean not produce mice for HP or whoever else actually contracts them for the mice for their PCs and other stuff. So it's not so bad after all. So it looks like it turns out that my next mouse may end up still being a Logitech mouse after all. So it's all turned out all right in the end. That's good news. Which leads me to the bad news, and that is the news that Konami is dead. Very dead indeed. They're finished as a company, most absolutely. You know, Kojima leaving was bad enough, but this really takes the biscuit. Absolutely. It's just further cementing the fact that Konami as a company is just no more. They've just fluffed up so bad in so many areas, and this is the biggest fluff up of them all. Although that is if you've only just heard this news. I am of course talking about the news that Guillermo del Toro, who was collaborating with Kojima Production on Silent Hills, had gone on an interview sort of thing with a TV's Matt Hackney, and one of the quotes that they posted up on Twitter about Silent Hills was from Guillermo del Toro himself, who said it's not gonna happen, and that breaks my greasy heart. So that was taken by everyone to be confirmation that along with Kojima Productions disbanding and leaving the company after Metal Gear Solid 5, Silent Hills has actually seemed to have been taken down with it, and that's not going to happen at all. And well, I personally thought, hang on a minute, we might be jumping the gun here. They never actually said that Silent Hills had stopped production. You know, it was just a quote from Guillermo del Toro, basically saying that he's not collaborating with Hideo Kojima anymore, and that's what I first thought. However, today it's been confirmed by Konami themselves. They have essentially said that while they're still committed to Silent Hill titles, Silent Hills is actually been cancelled. So there you have it, and that is obviously why a lot of people, me included, think right now Konami as video games company is just done. It's not happening anymore. Konami as a company, even though I did say that I did before, that was just me being funny about trying to keep in the high spirits and being funny about it. But aside from that, obviously they got their pachinko and their health clubs, and they seem, like I said before in my last video about them, they seem to be doing okay with that. They seem to be making money of that. In fact, following this news, they also actually delisted themselves from the New York Stock Exchange. They basically got rid of their shares in that regard, what's known as their American depository shares, mainly because they're not seeing much of an investment in that regard. So it seems they're pretty much concentrating on their stock and their pachinko divisions and stuff like that, basically on their home turf. They're sort of drawing back their business to the divisions where they're making most money, and obviously it seems at this point that video games is being affected as well. I mean, not like we didn't have enough clues before. Like I said before, a heck of a lot of their well-loved franchises essentially just disappeared. Castlevania was kind of one of the latest franchises to have disappeared off the face of the earth after the Lord of Shadows series. And I think Love Plus has stopped happening after New Love Plus. Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't see much of that anymore. And, you know, then of course there's DDR and Beatmania and Gradius and all the other awesome franchises that have just not been seen for a long time. Along with this and their disbanding of Kojima Productions, they seem to be drawing back most of their gaming division, and it's going to be not necessarily an insignificant part of their business, but just a very small part. They won't be as big in video games, or at least in video games for dedicated video game devices, as they were before. And Silent Hills is just essentially the latest victim of that, which, well, is a goddamn shame. And, you know, I don't blame anyone thinking that Konami is dead, even though they're not. They're just not. not saying that they aren't big in video games anymore, they still have the franchises, it's just a question of what they will actually do with them. And given they haven't done much lately with Castlevania, and now they've essentially cut off one of their most loved franchises, one of the games of one of their most loved franchises, which, given the response of the PT demo, it was an overwhelmingly positive response on that when it was released on the PlayStation Network. You would have thought that they would have gone ahead with that, but obviously since Hideo Kojima was pretty much involved in that, and they probably didn't see any way to kind of save it after that, it ended up having to go. I don't blame anyone at this point if they just disregarded Konami after this point. I've always said that Sega has not been doing great in the gaming space as well, given that lately they had decided not to concentrate on consoles so much and concentrate more on mobile and PC, and a lot of their franchises have sort of almost died a death as well, apart from maybe Sonic, although that's kind of arguable, and the Football Manager series and Total War series on the PC. Even after Alien Isolation, which has received really well and didn't sell too badly, yeah, they're pretty much a shadow of their former selves, but compared to Konami, they seem absolutely prolific, really. But yeah. You are almost tempted to just say RIP Konami at this point. After this, it's just wondering what's going to happen next after MGS5 comes out. Who knows what's going to happen to Konami? It seems that they are pretty much slowly winding down the video games division and retreating to a safe spot in their business, and that's pretty sad. Can't help be sad about that. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. So there, that's my views on this news, which probably won't be coming out as frequently as I said it would. I obviously just got tired of it because, like I said, I was just rambling on to myself and not very many people watching. I know I should actually promote this stuff a bit more, but it's just stuff I'm doing for fun, and because I've got other commitments, as well as getting through all the games, I just won't be posting as much anymore, and I think that's just how things are going to be for a long time in that regard. So apologies for that, but as I always say, for those who did watch, thanks for watching, and keep being awesome and keep on playing, folks.